Title: She had me adopt her son, then took everything. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 38 years old now, but the story I'm about to tell started 4 years ago, back when I believed I had finally found my forever. I met Natalie when she was 32. She came with a bright smile and a 5-year-old son named Jaden. She told me Jaden's father had vanished the moment she told him about the pregnancy, disappeared without a trace. She said he wasn't even listed on the birth certificate. According to her, there had been no support, no contact, just a deadbeat who ghosted before the baby arrived. I trusted her. Natalie and I dated for 2 years before tying the knot. During that time, Jaden and I bonded like father and son. I read bedtime stories to him, took him on fishing trips, and helped him piece together his first Lego castle. The little guy became a part of me. Natalie would watch us with tears in her eyes and whisper how lucky she felt, how grateful she was that her son finally had a real dad. I believed that too. 6 months into our marriage, I brought up adoption. She was overjoyed. She called me the kind of man she thought she'd never find. The legal process wasn't quick. It took over a year, background checks, psychological evaluations, and legally mandated newspaper postings, just in case some mysterious biological father decided to emerge from the shadows. But no one came forward. Under oath, Natalie testified that she had no idea who Jaden's biological father was. The court believed her. So did I. Once the adoption was official, Jaden took my last name. I added him to my health insurance and opened up a college fund in his name. I wasn't just his stepdad, I was his father in every way that counted. For a while, life felt solid. Then, cracks began to show. About 18 months into our marriage, Natalie started to pull away. She grew cold and short-tempered. Her phone suddenly became her lifeline, always locked, always in her hands. She started coming home late, picking fights over minor things, toothpaste caps, lights left on. The warning signs were all there, but I missed them. Then, like lightning out of a clear sky, she blindsided me with divorce papers. Her reasoning? We've grown apart. I need time to rediscover who I am. 2 weeks. That's how long it took before I got slapped with a child support demand in the mail. Let that sink in. She walked out on me, and then demanded I pay monthly support for the son I adopted in good faith. A child who wasn't biologically mine. Worse, she was also trying to reduce how often I could see him. When I confronted her, she didn't blink. "You signed the adoption papers," she said coldly. "That makes you his father. It's not my problem anymore." The smugness in her voice, the smile she wore, I'll never forget it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't random. Maybe it hadn't been the plan from day one, but she knew exactly what she was doing long before those papers were finalized. But the real twist came during one of our heated arguments over custody. I still remember her words, sharp and careless. "He's not even your real son, and you know it." That stopped me cold. If she'd truly never known who the biological father was, how could she throw that line at me? That one sentence stuck with me like a splinter in my brain. I brought it up with my lawyer, Lauren Tate. She suggested we hire a private investigator to dig deeper. Enter Greg Rivas, an ex-detective with a sharp mind and a reputation for uncovering secrets people thought were buried for good. Greg spent months sifting through Natalie's financial records, email trails, and social media history. That's when he found something, small but suspicious. Natalie had been receiving regular transfers of money from 2 men, Derek Fields and Marcus Lynn. Nothing that screamed scandal, just $300 here, $500 there, but consistent, steady, and frequent enough to raise eyebrows. The strange part? Derek's payments started immediately after Jaden was born, and continued even after Natalie and I were married. Greg managed to locate Derek Fields, a 40-year-old electrician living about an hour away. After a bit of back and forth, Derek agreed to meet with Greg. And when he was told the full story, Derek's reaction said everything. "She married someone who adopted Jaden. he asked, visibly stunned. I didn't know anything about that. I've been sending her money ever since he was born. Title: She lied to everyone, including our son. I always thought he was my son, Derek said, his voice heavy with regret. But she shut me out. As it turned out, Derek and Natalie had been together for nearly a year. Their relationship ended right around the time she discovered she was pregnant. When Derek offered to step up and be involved, she declined. Told him she didn't want him in the picture. What she never mentioned was that she'd eventually put Jaden up for adoption by her future husband. She always said I'd have a chance to be in Jaden's life one day, just not yet, Derek continued. Now I find out I might have lost him for good. Greg asked if he was willing to take a paternity test. Derek didn't even pause. Of course. I've waited long enough. But the legal road ahead wasn't simple. Because I had already legally adopted Jaden, Derek had no legal grounds to claim parental rights. So we filed a motion accusing Natalie of deliberately misleading the court during the adoption process. In other words, we had to prove she knowingly lied about not knowing the biological father's identity, a serious offense under the law. Greg wasn't done investigating. He managed to recover a trove of old messages from a cloud backup tied to a mutual friend. What those messages exposed was beyond damning. Natalie had been in contact with Derek for years, even during our marriage. She'd been sending him photos of Jaden, updating him about school events and soccer games, even arranging secret meetings whenever I was away on business trips. She hadn't just deceived the court. She lied to Derek, to me, and worst of all, to her own son. We presented everything: the texts, financial records, secret visits, and Derek's formal request to undergo DNA testing and assert his parental rights. The judge appointed a guardian ad litem, a court-approved advocate tasked with evaluating what was in Jaden's best interest. The DNA results came back: 99.98% match. Derek was, without question, Jaden's biological father. Natalie had known the entire time. With overwhelming evidence in hand, the court ruled that the adoption had been obtained under false pretenses. The judgment nullified the adoption. I was no longer Jaden's legal father and was immediately relieved of all child support obligations. Derek was granted shared custody. As for Jaden, confused, hurting, but resilient, he began the slow journey of adjusting to a truth that had been kept from him his entire life. Natalie didn't get away unscathed. While the family court had delivered its decision, she now faced potential criminal charges. There was still the matter of lying under oath. For me, it was a brutal but clarifying experience. I learned that being honorable doesn't shield you from being manipulated. But it does mean that when the lies collapse, you walk away with your integrity, while those who used you are left to face the fallout. Things moved quickly once the DNA test confirmed everything. But Natalie wasn't done trying to control the story. She walked into court crying, claiming she'd only done what she believed was best for Jaden. She said Derek had been unstable at the time and that she feared he'd abandon their son. That, she insisted, was why she'd kept his identity hidden from the court. But the judge wasn't moved, not after reviewing the extensive records showing continuous communication between Natalie and Derek. Messages, photos, and money transfers proved beyond doubt that she had knowingly misled everyone involved. The judge didn't just revoke the adoption and release me from legal obligations. She reprimanded Natalie right there in court, calling her actions intentionally deceitful and a severe breach of trust in the eyes of the law. Meanwhile, Derek stepped up. He filed for shared custody and committed to parenting classes, therapy sessions, and supervised visits to build a relationship with the son he never got to raise. I remember seeing him sitting with Jaden in the courthouse hallway one afternoon, fidgeting nervously, clearly unsure of how to begin. Then Jaden pulled out a drawing he'd made in school and showed it to him, smiling. That moment said more than words ever could. Derek was trying, and Jaden was open. It stung. I had been the one to read bedtime stories, to soothe him through fevers, to walk him into his first day of school. I had done all the things a father should. But that didn't change the legal reality or the biological truth. A court-appointed child therapist explained that Jaden was navigating a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, grief, even guilt, especially about my withdrawal from his life. During our final supervised visit, Jaden looked up at me and asked, "So, you're not my dad anymore?" That question broke something in me. I took a deep breath, held his small hand, and told him, "No matter what the court says, I'll always care about you. I want you to grow up strong, kind, and happy. That's all I ever wanted for you." He hugged me tightly. That was the last time I saw him. I sold the house Natalie and I had once shared, moved out of state, started again from scratch. The emotional toll was immense. The legal fees emptied my savings. My reputation took a temporary hit too. Natalie tried to spin the story, claiming I was just a bitter ex who refused to support his son. At first, the court documents were sealed. But once the criminal charges were filed, parts of the case became public. Yes, Natalie was formally charged with perjury, adoption fraud, and attempted child support under false pretenses. Her sentence? 2 years probation, a hefty fine she couldn't afford, and court-mandated parenting and ethics classes. She tried to reach out to me a few months later. Sent me an email. "I made mistakes. Jaden needs stability. Maybe we can talk. He misses you." I didn't reply. Because I'd finally accepted the truth. Closure doesn't come from those who shattered you. It comes from recognizing who they are and choosing not to give them any more of your peace. A year later, I got a message from Greg, the private investigator. Derek had been granted full joint custody. He was doing well, so well, in fact, that he started a blog about stepping into fatherhood under impossible circumstances and co-parenting with someone like Natalie. Turns out, we both narrowly escaped a much bigger disaster. As for me, I'm rebuilding, one quiet step at a time. I've learned that love isn't blind, it's trusting. And trust, once broken this deeply, takes time to mend. But I'm getting there.